there folks, back with the Orel today, and I've made a little bit of progress with it since the last video. So I've ordered a new power supply for it, which has turned up. Thought it was easier than building one. So it needs 24 volts, which is what this is, but it needs 24 volts centre pin negative, so I've just made up a little adapter cable just to swap the polarity around. I couldn't find anywhere at all that would sell me a video cable for it, so I ended up making one. So I've sacrificed an old SCART lead and just put a DIN plug on it. That seems to work pretty well. So yeah, I've powered it up and it does seem to work, and it's immediately obvious. I don't know if you've seen the previous video, but when I opened it up and looked inside, there was a load of aftermarket circuitry that had been applied. And I was curious as to what that did, and as soon as you power this thing up, it becomes very apparent what that is. So I'll show you. Let me hook this thing up. Alright, so let me just plug this in and power it up, and you'll see what I mean. And there you go, 1982 Sinclair Research Limited. So it's been modded to run exactly like a Spectrum. So that explains why it's got two EEPROMs replacing the original ROMs. It explains all the extra circuitry, I presume. And you know what, it's given a really nice, bright, clear picture as well. And from what I'd read online about these, is you wire them up through SCART, you're going to get a dark picture, but no, not at all, not at all. So yeah, it seems to operate as a 48K Spectrum. It's even got the same sort of keyword entry. Reset button seems to reset it, as you'd expect. This NMI button also seems to reset it, so there you go. Yeah, it seems to work quite nicely with a really nice picture as well. The only thing I will say is the picture gets a bit not grainy, sort of liney. So if I put some high contrast on, so let's just, I don't know if you're going to see that. Let me try and zoom in. I don't know. There are stripes going up and down, and they're quite apparent with the darker colours. But hey, so what? Let's just reset that. Okay, yeah, so some of the keys don't work at all, and I'm going to assume there's nothing actually wrong with the keyboard. It's just that because this is running on a Spectrum ROM, that some of these keys aren't needed. So a lot of these keys over here, for example, do absolutely nothing. Backspace works, these work, the arrow keys work, shift keys work, this does nothing, these do nothing, control works as symbol shift, caps lock does nothing, tab does nothing, that does nothing. Interesting quirk on the keyboard, if I want an asterisk for example, although on the here it's on the 8 key, on a Spectrum of course that's on the B key. So that's how I would type it. I've got open and close brackets here, but of course on the Spectrum they're on 8 and 9. So if I want to close bracket, I need to click the open bracket button on here, so it would be Control 9. Of course, Control 0 is an underscore, so yeah. So it doesn't quite, the keyboard doesn't quite line up with the Spectrum OS that's built into it. I think I showed it on the last video, but the system does come with a joystick, and I'm kind of curious to know if that works. So I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to run a little test program as I would on a Spectrum just to see if it functions, and we'll see. To be honest, it doesn't feel too clever. but that might just be the way it is rather than any sort of fault. I don't know. Alright, let's give this a go. Nope. Left is working, right is working. Up is working, down is working. And fire seems to operate the brake key for some reason. But at least it's working. I mean, it's, yeah. Okay, cool, that works. Let's see how far this compatibility goes. Let's try running some basic programs. Let's see if that works. It's just a test program from the Spectrum Plus manual. That's all this is. Yeah, works perfectly. Just a very, very simple test. Do you know, if anything, that seems to run a little fast? Maybe. Nice picture though. I wonder if I can still break into the program by using the joystick. Yep. Keyboard feels really nice to type on. I believe it's a reed switch, so it's magnet operated. Quite like that. Now initially, when I first looked at this, I thought this was a speaker, but it isn't. The speaker does output through the TV. I had to wire in the sound. That is a grill for a heatsink. There's a great big socket heatsink under there. Let's get a bit more adventurous and try some Spectrum software. So, just like the video cable, I couldn't find anyone that was selling an audio cable, so again I've just made one. For this I've actually used the cable off the original power supply, so I've recycled that. Yeah, let's give it a go. Alright, let's begin with something just small, 16K, see if it'll read it. There we go. Lovely. Looks a bit black and white and grainy. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Okay, let's give it a go anyway. Oh no, it's there, the colour's there. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it is a bit liney. Yeah, it seems to work. You know, I actually quite like this game. But yeah, let's try something a bit more adventurous, shall we? What have we got? Sticking with the Imagine theme, let's try Stonkers. Yep, that seems to work. Turn that up a bit. It's a bit wavy on the screen again. I don't know if you're going to see it. This will be a good test of the joystick actually. I'll set it for Kempston and we'll see what happens. Give that a go. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Fantastic. This joystick works really well, actually. I didn't think it would. I thought, because there's an awful lot of travel in it. It must just be the way it is. I don't know. Excellent. Anyway, I can spend like an hour on this game, so I won't do that now. I just wanted to test it. Excellent. Okay, let's try something else. And you know what? Let's try loading something off my laptop, because it doesn't have the same volume level as a tape deck. And I know later issue spectrums are fine, but the early ones, it does struggle with it a little bit because the signal's a bit too low. Let's see how this does. Ah, that works. Okay. Nope. Yep. Joystick. Yes. Let's have a Kempston. Alright. Well, it seems to work. Come on. Love this game. Yep. That's what you get for playing around the camera. Yeah. This seems to have a really high level of compatibility. I'm really quite impressed. Let's give it another challenge. See what I've got a bit more complicated. Let's go for a bigger challenge. Alright, doesn't like that one then. Okay, fine. Do you know what though? It's still not a bad level of compatibility really, considering I'm playing Spectrum games on something that isn't technically a Spectrum. You know, just for giggles, I wonder how the Sinclair test program would run. Oh, well, it loaded. Okay, let's see what we've got. What should we call it? Let's try... I won't bother with the keyboard tests. Let's go for a colour/flash, so that's number 4. Yep, looks fine. Sound is 5. Ah, yes, it works. Yes, I did hear the tone. I don't want to hear it again. ULA, that'll be an interesting one. I suspect it will have a problem here, though. Oh, okay. Apparently the Sinclair test program isn't that clever. RAM and ROM, that might throw a wobbler as well. Spectrum has 48k of memory in working order. Is that correct? No, it's got 64k, but I suppose, yeah. And the ROM test has passed. Well, it has got a Spectrum ROM in it, so yeah. Well, there you go. Okay, so there you go. That is a look at the Orel powered up, and that answers the question from the last video. What were all those modifications inside for? Well, it makes it run like a Spectrum. And it's got a really decent level of compatibility as well. So yeah, I think what I want to do with this next is put the original ROMs in it, because I do have them, they came with the computer, and see what the differences are. I'm not going to do that in this video because it's probably getting a bit long as it is anyway. Plus I'm hungry and I want to go and eat something, so I'm going to wrap this up anyway. But thank you very much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you when I get round to part 3 of this. Bye.